Live, brought to you exclusively by Abu Garcia.
What's up, everybody? How you doing? Hope you're having a wonderful day, night, evening, wherever you're at, wherever you're watching, wherever you're listening. First of all, yes, I do have rosy cheeks. I fish for a living. Thank you very much. I've got a great show for you today. Joining us in just a little bit, we have two dudes that did something really special, especially up here in the Northeast. And we're going to be talking to I love the ring of this, by the way. I love the sound of this. We're going to be talking to the two new winners of the 2024 Ike Foundation event, Pro-Am, on the Upper Chesapeake Bay. We've got Connor Cahill, Adam Satinoff joining us in just a second. Cannot wait to get Adam and Connor on the phone. Not just to talk about the win, but to talk about some other stuff. So it's going to be really, really awesome. I want to remind you, this podcast is brought to you by Abu Garcia, the makers of great rods and reels. I want to remind you, got some exciting news. If you're an Abu Garcia fan, the brand new Ike Series 3.0 officially dropping at ICAST this year. So that's like a month and a half away. So very excited to get them out in the wild. It's a upgrade of the old Ike Series rods at a lower price point. Can't get any better than that. So keep your eye out for the new Ike Series 3.0 rods and reels launching in just about a month and a half here. Also, thank you to the Ike Foundation. Great tie-in today with having Conor and Adam on. But it's a really big deal to get new kids fishing. Yesterday, in fact, we had a kids event at a farm camp, and we call them littles, but littles to me are those little kids, like 4 to 7-year-old kids, many of whom have not even fished before. And we had an event yesterday with about 100 kids that came out and got to catch bluegill and catfish and bass. And it's that kind of thing that they're really striving to do every day, is to change a kid's life to get them involved in the sport. So if you want to help with that, head on over to the ikefoundation.org. Get more information on how you can help get kids fishing. All right. I want to get them on the show here because, by the way, a lot of you guys are watching and listening to this, and you're doing it at your own leisure. But today is a Friday, and it is work hours. So this is probably illegal right now. We've probably Connor and Adam are probably going to get in trouble if their bosses find out. But we're going to get them on the line. Can't wait to talk to them. Joining us now on Ike Live, Connor and Adam. Let me get them on here. Hey, guys. How you doing?
Hey, Mike. What's going on, Mike? How are you?
Now, are we going to be in big trouble? Are your bosses going to watch this or listen to this and be like, that motherfuckers weren't working? Or are we okay?
Well, Connor's a nurse, so I think he's all right.
All right, Connor, you're good.
Yeah, I'm into sales, so my schedule's pretty flexible. So
all right, so we're good. So we got no regrets here. This is all legit. First of all, guys, congrats on the win. Probably about a month ago now, about a month, give or take, and I told both of you this there, but I do want to restate that it always makes me feel really, really good when like local guys, and I consider that the Northeast, but especially South Jersey guys, do well and succeed. And I'm really happy for you guys. And this isn't a fluke. This was let me tell everybody, this is a long time coming. Both you guys have supported the Ike Foundation in a lot of things that they do, not just tournaments, but you guys have tried to win this for a lot of years. So congrats, guys. You deserve it. Very, very happy for you. Has this win set in yet? I want to, Connor, let's start with you. Has this win set? It's a month past already, but has it set in? This is a big deal.
It actually just started to set in like a week or two ago. I mean, the first 2 weeks, it was just like surreal. Like it didn't really even like feel like it actually happened. And it was just I was also very busy, so it could have been something to do with that. But a few weeks ago, I was sitting down and I'm just like, I couldn't believe it. And I guess it kind of hit me when I saw the boat get listed, because I kind of want to keep it. I'm on the fence right now. When I damn, like, we won that, we did that, and like you were saying, we've been trying to do this for 5 years now, 6 years, and to really finally be able to get that accomplished and check that off the bucket list is just super special.
Yeah. Yeah. Adam, how about you? Has it set in? Because both you guys have, here's the thing, both you guys have won other events. This isn't like winning is a new thing, but if you're listening to this podcast and you're watching, let me sort of put this in perspective. We're not Alabama. We're not Florida. We're not Texas. In the Northeast, we've never had an event like this. Foxwoods Trail. I don't know if you guys remember Foxwoods, but Foxwoods back in like the 90s was a trail that first place you would win a boat and motor. But this for the Northeast is a big deal. 50K is a big deal. So if you're watching this and you're saying, they want a tournament, big deal. This is a big deal. Adam, has it set in for you yet? Is this something that you wanted? Was this a bucket list item for you?
Yeah, I mean, we mark this on our calendar year after year. And every time we step out on the bay, we kind of feel like that we have a good shot to win or at least be in contention. And obviously just always fall short. We put in a lot of time. Conor puts in a lot of time. Being a nurse, he's super flexible. I'm just the guy in the back of the boat that tries to catch him and uses the net, So, I try and get that out there as much as possible with him and get out there and put the time in and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely set in. It was cool pulling into Conor's driveway after the tournament and seeing a boat there. And now the boat's actually sitting in my driveway. So every day I'm reminded of that win when I pull in the driveway after work, and it just kind of puts a little smile on the face. But I think it represents just everything that we've worked for over the years, just putting in that time, having the friend group that we do, and just being able to figure things out and put it all together on that one day is pretty special. So yeah, it's definitely set in. But yeah, it's going to be tough to let go of. I mean, like I said, it sits in the driveway, so seeing it every day shine red when that sun's beaming down on it, it's tough. It's tough.
Yeah, it is a pretty boat too. It's interesting because I don't know if you guys knew this, but so we had this amazing relationship with Bass Cat and Yamaha. They've supported our kids fishing from day one. And when we put the order in for the boat at Bass Cat, we really never know what we're going to get. It's earmarked as the Ike Foundation prize boat. And so every year it kind of shows up, and we've had purple boats and blue boats. And when that one showed up, I'm like, damn, like that's hot. It's like a race car with that red.
Best one.
Pretty damn good. I want to dive into the win a little bit because I thought it was a great story, and I got to talk to you guys a little bit about it after the day was over. But I think it's really testament to something that I believed for a long time, in probably in anything in life, but in fishing specifically. Little things happen that when they happen, you don't see it, right? It almost has to happen after the event, and you look back and you say, damn, if that didn't happen, this wouldn't have happened. If this wouldn't have happened, that, and it's almost like, I always say it's like meant to be, or, however you want to wrap your hands around it from a religious standpoint or whatever. But like, it's almost like things are going to happen when they happen, and it's set in motion. And then you just kind of sit back and watch it happen. And you're like, damn, that was incredible. Conor, Adam, just start off this story, because I think it's incredible. I think our listeners are going to love it, and it is true. Sometimes it's just meant to be. Who wants to start? Because this is a great story.
Yeah, I'll jump off. Yeah, so I mean, we put in a lot of practice time. Conor's always putting in practice time. He lives 2 blocks off the water down in Maryland, so it's super easy. Got a nice little private ramp, dump in there, and you can go run out to the flat in 2 minutes, which is awesome. But yeah, I mean, probably about a week before the Ike tournament, I started chucking around a bait that, probably never threw down there.
Right.
It was one of those baits that, it could work, it might work, but you never really threw it. And better than I do, it's tough to get confidence in something unless you throw it and you catch them on it. So in that practice, we ended up catching a couple good ones, and we're like, that might be something, right? We go into the tournament the next day and caught 20 pounds, and I think we ended up in 5th place, and it all came off of that one bait. So, it kind of triggered us a little bit to say, like, okay, maybe we should chuck this thing around a little bit more and see how good it really can be. As you know, the bay right now is super choked out. I mean, there's grass everywhere. It's tough to really even get a bait through unless you get in some of those ditches and whatnot. But so basically, I went on a hunt for these worms. I'll let the cat out the bag. It's a worm, and I kind of went all over the place, put some orders in. Next thing you know, they were back ordered, and now I'm scrambling. So I run down to Cabela's, and I'm like, Connor, I'll stop down on the way to practice, and I'll grab a couple bags. So I go down there, and they're not there, and I'm like, son of a bitch, like what am I gonna do now? So now I got to try and ask somebody at the ramp, let the cat out the bag a little bit, And as I'm walking around Cabela's, a guy stops me, and he had recognized me from just fishing some local derbies down there. And he said, I couldn't help it over here. I actually had like 10 bags of those worms at my house I've never thrown. He was like, do you want them? And I'm like, absolutely. Absolutely. So shout out to Sean. He met me at the ramp the next morning. He was like my worm plug in the morning. I get to the ramp, he hands me a paper bag full of worms in there. And just so happens, I mean, we damn near caught every big fish on that.
Wow.
So just the way it kind of happened, like you said, a little bit of fate, little bit of luck, however you want to call it. I thought that was super cool. I mean, without running into him, we might not have had those baits, might not have won the tournament. I mean, however you want to think about it, it might not have happened, but fortunately it did. And I thought that was pretty cool. It's just one of those things, you just randomly run into a guy in Cabela's, and next thing you know, you're riding home in a new bass cat. So yeah, wow. I thought that was really cool.
That's awesome. Shout out to Sean for doing that, because I think most anglers, when you run into them, they're like, they don't want to give you stuff, right. Like, no. This is mine. This is my secretive bubble of baits and thoughts, and stay out of it. So shout out to Sean for doing that. Connor, I want to know, so that was magic. That happening was magic, but how did the day progress? Because in a lot of my wins, when I look back, and I don't have a lot of wins, it's tough to win, whether you're at a Thursday nighter or whether you're fishing the Classic. Trust me, it's tough to actually win, right? And in all of my wins, like, things pieced together, like, just almost by themselves. Like, it was like a fluid thing of, man, I did this, and I wouldn't have normally did that, but I did that, and then this happened. And how did the day progress? Was it like that? Did you just stomp them, or was it just a nice flow of big fish catches?
So this tournament was really kind of unique compared to tournaments that I've won in the past in the Bay. I mean, for me, I'm usually good at, milking a spot or two. There's fish there. You fish it through the tides. One spot might be better on high, and one spot might be better on low, but you really milk one or two areas. But we knew kind of this time around that we were going to have to bounce around a little bit, and we were going to have to hit that tide just right. Timing the tides, it sounds a little easier than it is, but if you're 15 minutes late, there could be a guy on it. There could be 2 boats on it, 3 boats on it. And in the past, we've made adjustments and got to a spot or an area, and there's a boat on there, or you're a little bit late, a little bit early. This time around, we just hit everything so perfect. Sometimes it's kind of lucky, but I mean, you have to just be aware, obviously. So we know where we want it to be at certain times, but I think we just executed like perfectly, like knowing when to leave, knowing when to stay, and it just seemed like, we landed on the first spot on dead high tide. Normally not a great tide, but we knew that there was fish in the area, and we caught 5-pounder right off the bat on a dead high tide. So wow. I mean, bonus fish, right?
Yeah.
And we catch one other small one, and then we're like, it's not really happening. And rather than wait it out, let's I know another spot. Let's go run there. We catch a couple little ones, and we're about to leave. Adam hooks up with, another 5 pound. We're about to leave, and Adam's, he's not even casting a little bit off the juice. So Adam was worried a little bit about me putting time in and all that, but Adam's always clutch for catching. He's usually clutch for catching the biggest one, which I think he accomplished that. But no, he always catches them. He always catches clutch fish. If I'm slacking, he's catching them. If he's slacking, I'll catch him. But I think this time around, we just caught him. We got the tides. We timed everything so perfectly. And I think after that, we ran to an area. It wasn't really it. Then we ran to the next spot. And then we ended up catching a giant, almost right off the bat. And then 2 boats showed up. Not that they saw us catching fish, but they showed up. And it was when the boats come in, the fish kind of shut down. It was perfect. So, but then by then we had, 3 5-pounders in the boat. We didn't even have a limit. It was probably 10 o'clock, but we knew, it was more important to catch those quality fish.
Right.
Let me cut, Con, let me stop you for a second though, because we caught the fish on 3 different baits, right? Normally you kind of get dialed in a little bit and you kind of get in a little groove with the bait, right? I think the first fish we caught on chatterbait was a big 5-pounder. The next fish in the spot that we had, it was a history spot. It was a spot that we had kind of really developed last year, and it really only plays in the post spawn. So it's one of those spots where those post spawn fish come out and we don't even look at it in any other time of year really. And it just so happens, I think, Con, that we maybe looked back at almost damn near the same exact date. We had caught maybe 19 or 20 pounds in a blown out. It was a blown out flat, and we had slid out and caught some back there. But that fish was caught on a drop shot. Wow. And then, pulled to another spot, and Connor caught a 5 on a popper on a bluebird sky, so, to say that the fate and the timing and the tides and all kind of mixed together. It wasn't just, me and Connor say it all the time. We never just go and land on 20 pounds. We hear guys talking oh, I pulled up to my first spot and I had 20 pounds by 7:15, and we're just we never do that.
You're junking. You're fighting for them. And you're grinding and you're changing with the tides. I think it's hard to explain that in a 40-minute podcast, but the timing of tides for the guys listening and watching that don't live on a tidal water or fish it, it's so critical. And you hit it on the head, Connor. It's if you're off by 5 minutes, sometimes 10 minutes, you're screwed. I vividly remember the Delaware River tournament in 2014 that I won, that the first day I was 10 minutes behind everything. And I was just, once I got behind, I was screwed because I could never catch it again. And I was clawing the catch back up, but I never caught it. I caught 8 pounds the first day. And then it was the next day I got ahead of it. And then I was ahead of it. So when I landed on a place, it was perfect. And then I got to the next place and that's so critical. And it sounds like a nice mix of grinding and timing for you guys that day. It sounds like it was a perfect combination.
Sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. I got to ask this. I'm asking this half personally and half for the other clueless guys that have had days on the flat where you're pulling your hair out. And for those of you listening and watching that don't know the Susquehanna Flats, the best way I can describe it is it's 10 square miles of 3 to 5 foot of water. And Adam, you said it, in the last few years, it's grass everywhere. It's almost undefinable, right? And reminds me a little of the California Delta, a little bit of some places in Florida that I fish where, it just seems like it's needle in the haystack. For a guy fishing the flats that has never fished it, or a guy fishing the flats that feels lost, can you give a tip or two just to how you develop some fish, how you develop a pattern out there? It all looks the same, Go
ahead, Con.
This is a tough one. I think the big thing is obviously knowing where to be, at the right tide and all that, but just being familiar with the different depressions and ditches and drop offs and stuff like that. So there's a lot of areas where it's just flat. and you can catch fish on those big flats, and a lot of the flats are really, really good, and a lot of tournaments are one off them. But the flat might be 3 foot of just straight grass, and it's just kind of hard to decipher where you want to be. But there's a lot of little ditches and depressions and stuff like that. And I think really what it comes down to is just going out there and just taking the time to even like put your rods away and just graph the ditch, seeing,
right.
drops where it gets shallow, and you kind of mark, these big ditches out. You have this, something to work with. So it almost like, where the edge is, where it's deeper, where it's shallow. You don't feel as lost because you're like, okay, I know what I'm fishing. It's a drop off, where they're, where they should be. So rather than kind of pull your hair out and just kind of like put the trolling motor down and just go, you kind of have like an idea of where you're fishing.
I think a big thing too is that, catching it on a higher tide, right? I mean, better than I do. It's just when it's so low like that, I mean, you can ground your boat in a heartbeat.
Right.
So I think catching it and really putting in the time during a higher tide, that way you can kind of drive around and get a good idea. That, hey, listen, if it's 2 feet here, by the time that tide falls out, you might have 6 to 10 inches of water. So that's not an area that, you want to kind of focus on. And you can kind of see some of the areas that, have those ditches in them, and, they get a little bit darker water, and they kind of drop off into 5, 6, in some, big ditches, there's 8 foot. But some of them aren't very wide either. Some of them are only a stone's throw wide, really. But then at the same time, when it gets like this and it gets into the summertime and it gets real choked out, you can really see the defined edges of some of those ditches, because you can see where the grass gets real high in those shallow areas, and it really chokes it out. And then you'll see the ditches really define themselves and show themselves during the low tide. But I mean, I think obviously, like Conor was saying, paying attention to your maps, checking out Google Maps. You can see some aerial maps. You can see some, if you look back in later years, you can kind of see it on different tides where they took screenshots. And you can kind of, now granted, that stuff changes, right? I mean, there's stuff that, ditches were, 3-4 feet, and now they're damn near silted in almost, with the tide running in and out, different storms, the wind blowing. But yeah, for somebody that doesn't really fish down there, I think, checking it out on both tides, on a high tide where you can really drive around, get an idea, and then checking it out on low tide when all that grass starts to come up, and it really, you can kind of see where you shouldn't go as opposed to maybe where you should go. Yeah.
Right. Great point. And I think so many, I've been guilty of it. You get to a place and we like to fish. We like to catch fish, right? So you want to fish. You don't want to just drive the damn boat around, and we get caught up in fishing and not looking. And the high tide thing is a great point. I never thought of it that way, but it allows you to actually drive around, right? You can drive around on pad, you can fast idle, you can get that stuff done, where in low water, you're beaching the boat, you're beating your head in. That's a super good point. Or you could use the Keith Cowan approach, which is just get on the furthest grass out you can see, light a joint, and just go fishing, That works too.
And next thing you know, there's 3 boats next to him. And it's just like, I wasn't even fishing,
Yeah, I don't know if they smell the weed or they see the fish catches that draws them in, like the Pied Piper, They just come in there. I want to change gears, and I'm not, this isn't verbatim, this isn't word for word, but I've heard you guys called, and this, by the way, this comes from some of the very best anglers up here, and I'm not kidding you. So, of course, Rizzo and Pete and Mike Senator, and these guys that are always catching them, Johnny Venor, all these guys have said this in one way or another, and they said Adam and Conor are the Northeast dream team. You're the dream team in this part of the country, especially on the Bay. They're basically saying you're the best team ever in this part of the country. So I want to flush that out, because I would agree. I think you guys, when you look historically, you guys are a strong team. And in team events, that's a dynamic that's critical, right? In the elites, it's a single event. It's you against the world, right? But here it's a team. It's 2 guys fishing combined as a team. I want to flesh this out. Let's start from the beginning, guys. When did you start fishing together? How'd you meet? How did you connect as a team?
Adam, you want to take it or want me to take it?
Yeah, I'll kick it off. Yeah, I mean, I started fishing late. I would jump in. I mean, you're familiar with Alcyon Lake. I grew up in Pittman right there. So,
Oh yeah.
I was a baseball player. I thought that was my ticket out of town. I went and played Division II baseball, worked out with a couple teams, and then kind of went to fishing. But at a young age, 16, 17, my mom bought me a little bathtub boat. My dad would bring me down to Alcyon Lake. He'd unhitch the trailer, drop me in, and then go to work. And next thing you know, he'd pick me up after work, 6, 7, 8 hours later, So that was kind of really how I got introduced to it. And, but nobody really within my family were big fishermen that kind of like showed me the way. And then kind of went off, played baseball. And then after baseball, it was like, what else can I do that, keeps me competitive, that something I can do by myself or with buddies or whatever the case may be. And I ended up working for an e-commerce fishing company. And I ran their back end, and that kind of like got me right back into it. And we opened up a storefront, and, I posted things and, had the little Thursday nighters and the Saturday little renegade tournaments and stuff. I said, hey, come out to the store. We'll check it out. I'll give you discounts on stuff. And that's kind of how I made some of those friends, and Connor can attest to this. We got a solid group of 6 buddies. Me, Connor, Rizzo, Rob Wilworth, Jimmy Valentine, Stevie Hanna. We're just a very, very close group of guys. I mean, Connor lives down in Maryland. Rizzo lives down in Maryland. We're always staying down there. Usually it's a Thursday night, Friday night. We'll get down there. We'll drink beers. We'll fish. We'll cook. We'll grill. We'll do all that fun stuff. And really, that's what's really formed our friend group pretty good. But yeah, I mean, I kind of got into that. A couple of the guys came in. Rob and Jim came into the store, shot the shit with them. Next thing you know, is kind of how, hey, let's go fishing one day. Shoot out, go fishing. Rob and Jim happened to be friends with Connor. Me and Connor kind of hit it off. And that's how that tournament team kind of started. But to kind of backtrack, I mean, I started being friends with Rizzo back in, right after, I think, college age. Rizzo had the long hair and the G3 boat. And, that's kind of how we hit it off. We just kind of jumped around and hopped in these little, club tournaments and stuff. There's only 8 guys in it, DOD and the Canal. And we would jump all over the place. And then I introduced Rich to all these guys. And next thing you know, I mean, we're just fish heads. We just love to fish. We love to hang out. We love to just bond and share the stories and come off the water and talk about how we caught them. I mean, it's a really fun group to be around. Like I said, we love to fish. We love to drink. We love to have a good time. Rizzo always takes care of us. Shout out to him, man.
Shout out to Riz. Yeah, for sure.
Shout out to Riz, man. He there's nothing better than getting that group text message at like 3:30, and he says, guys, the crock pot's ready to rock. It'll be ready as soon as you get in. And we have chicken tacos at 9:00 at night. And, he's just cooking a crock pot for us, man. So, I mean, shout out to Riz. He's always hooking us up. I mean, but the boys always help out. We're bringing beers down. We're having fun. But yeah, the bond has been good. Me and Connor, it kind of hit it off to the point where I'm not a strong-headed person when it comes to fishing. You get a lot of those people that, if they've ran a boat, and I've had my own boat and I've ran boats before, and it's just like, once you kind of get in that mindset, you want to run your own boat and make the decisions, make the call. I couldn't have any more trust in this guy with my life, let alone, the actual fishing aspect. I mean, that guy would be there for me in the matter of a heartbeat. But on the fishing side, I mean, I got to think this guy's probably arguably the best fisherman in the state of New Jersey, and I say that very confidently. The guy's proven himself in the Bass Nation. He's proven himself in Five Alive that has 100+ members, proven himself down here on the Bay. Just straight up puts in his time, puts a lot of work in, and he's super humble about it. Like that's the coolest thing. He's not peacocking around. So yeah, I mean, I think the bond that we've kind of also created is just like, I'm taking the back seat. I'm just there to fish, man. I'm there to fish and have fun with my friend and go out there and catch them. Don't get me wrong, super competitive. I want to win, right? I want to win like anybody else. But when it comes to decision making and things like that, he runs it by me. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. Let's go. Hop around, But yeah, I mean, it's kind of that ham and egg, however you want to call it. It's just one of those things that it works for us. It really does work for us. And we've had a lot of success, not even here in the Bay. I mean, we've been up to Cayuga. We fished for 10 grand on Lake Champlain. might want to tell you that story. I don't know. Still kind of hurts a little bit. We've been up on Thousand Islands. I mean, everything that we've done together has just really, really worked. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah, you said one thing that I want to stress, which is use the word trust, and I think that is a critical component to a team relationship, right? You have to trust your partner, and you have to have faith in that decision that he's making, or the change, or you have to have a trust there. But there's got to be more than that, because I've had team partners where it didn't gel. And I've had other team partners where it was like you could feel something different that would breed success. Besides trust, Conor, what else is it that makes you guys work so well together? What are some of the other elements why you gel as a team?
I mean, the trust is definitely a big part of it. If I'm not picking up my weight or not carrying my weight, I know Adam's going to carry his, and he's going to, get his fair share of bites. But, I think the fact that he just kind of, he lets me do my thing. He's not going to get in my head. He's not going to, throw out ideas unless I'm straight up looking at him like, hey, I've done what I can do. I've done everything that I can think of. What are you thinking next?
Yeah.
He's up on my toes. He's not going to tell me what to do. He's really great at taking a back seat and, fully putting the trust in me. And, I'm comfortable fishing with him. So, I know I can definitely count on him to get his fair share of bites. But if I have ran everything I think of, and, I've put the time in, I've tried to look everywhere that I normally can get bit and I can't get bit. Adam usually has the answer to that question. So, like, there's been a couple times this year. It actually happened, I think, the past 2 tournaments where I fished probably all day. So I would have the Friday off before the Saturday tournament, right? So I'm out there at 6 a.m. I'm getting some bites, but I'm not really seeing what I love. Adam gets done work, heads down around, 3 or 4 o'clock. And it seems like clockwork. As soon as he hops on the boat, he does something a little different, has a little suggestion, and it seems like it might not be something huge, but it's enough to start getting bit. And like, holy shit, like, we actually have something for tomorrow now. And it's just, it's just, you can count on to do something a little different, think outside the box. And, that's good. Sometimes just history, you can't fish history all the time. You got to do something a little different. You got to throw a little different, talking about like the worm and just thinking of a different area, a different bait, like, oh, spinner bait's not going to work right now. It's sunny and barely wind, or like, he'll catch one on a spinner bait. And I'm like, you can't think outside the box. And I think he's good for just having, keeping myself sharp, thinking outside the box, just not getting stuck in your ways, because I
think too, having two baits in the water too is super key during practice, right? I mean, like you said, it's just one of those things that if he's chucking around a chatterbait, I might be dragging something, next thing you know, I get 3 bites and we're like, maybe throwing a moving bait in this area wasn't the ticket, or vice versa. I couldn't count on one hand, 2 hands how many times Conor's told me put down a bait and 3 casts later I catch a big one on it, and I'm like, gotcha, So
I know he's going to catch one on it.
It's funny. We kind of have it as a little running joke now.
That's funny.
So that's been pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, I think it's just kind of keeping both of us, even keel, understanding that we know each other's attitude, we know each other's mindset, we share it. It's very similar, but in the same sense, I can also tell him, hey, listen, this ain't it, man. Let's hop the spot, number 2, 3, whatever it is. And that's where, next thing you know, he's pulling up the trolling motor. Like, he trusts me just as much as I trust him. So I think just having that is super key, because you get somebody that gets really strong-headed that maybe ran a boat, like I said, and, they're kind of in the back just chucking something around, lollygagging around. But yeah, like, I have more trust in him than anybody. So
that's awesome. That check and balance, I think, is important for a team, and you guys have that check and balance with each other, and I think that has to be there, or you don't have the long-term success. The other thing I'm interested in, are your styles similar? Your fishing styles similar, or are they different? Because here's why I ask this. I've seen successful teams where, the one guy is a finesse guy and the other guy's a power fisherman, and they do well because of that. And I've seen teams where they're opposite and they butt heads and they suck because of that. So I'm curious, do you have similar fishing styles, or are they completely different?
It's so similar, Mike, that I don't even bring my own tackle anymore. I just bum it out of Connor's boat. That's how similar it's gotten.
This is my rod, reels.
Yeah. It's
all shared tackle. It's all shared tackle. It's community.
Yeah, I mean, it's like when we buy tackle now, it's like, all right, what do you need? What do I need? All right, we're just putting it in the same box now at this point. Yeah. So, but yeah, it's funny you say that, because it's very, very similar. I bet you if you looked at our rods when they were on the deck, I bet you 75% of them are probably the same baits, to be honest with you. Right. Just because, I mean, we just fish so much together that when he catches fish on something, I get confidence in it. Right. And then vice versa. I mean, like I was saying, that worm that we were throwing, it's like, Connor never really threw it, to be honest with you. And then all of a sudden I started catching him on it, and he's like, oh shit, that could be something. Next thing you know, right. I mean, we're loading the boat in it. So it's very, very, very similar, which is cool.
Yeah. That's awesome. You guys have I know it sounds like you have this strong bond as a team, and you have to have that. But if one of you guys end up fishing like, a jackpot, or you cherry pick another derby and you're with a different partner, do you feel like your spouse is cheating on you?
It's sometimes, I give him shit sometimes. Like, come on, you're going to fish with Riz? Come on, what the hell?
Yeah, come on, you can't fish with Riz. You're cheating on me here. What the hell's going on?
Yeah, but no, I mean, sometimes the work conflict and stuff like that. Like I jumped in the Wednesday nighter with Rich the other week, and that's what's so cool about our bond. You know what I mean? It's having that friend group that can really all share stories and share time on the water together, and it's cool too, because you can you pick up different techniques and different ways to catch them or things like that. Where Rich is very much like you, Mike. It's probably where he got it from. He's very fast. His trolling motor's on 7. He's chucking a chatterbait all around. Yeah. Where more so I'm the guy that's a little bit more finessey, or something that is behind the boat a little bit better. But yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, because I give Connor some shit for that.
Yeah. So Connor, you're a nurse. Maybe you can help with the diagnosis. But me and Rich have that, because I think it's chemical imbalance in us, and I don't know the exact term, but I cannot sit still. Even right now, I'm having a hard time. I'm fumbling with a pen, just so I got to keep moving, like the thought of throwing a drop shot, not moving it for a minute, or a wacky rig and not moving it, is horrific. Like that's like torture to me. I can't take it, and that's hurt me sometimes, actually. But yeah, I don't know. ADD. I don't know. We didn't have a term for it back in the 70s. So I don't know what I have.
Piece of that energy. I would love to have that. I feel like I'm slowing down now. I need some of that.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm 52 a few days ago, and I'm still excited about the sport. I'm still energetic when I fish, but physically I'm slowing down. I'm definitely slowing down. But you guys don't have a problem. You were young guys. I listen, that was a great conversation. I hope we have a lot of people watching and listening. That team events are really big in a lot of other parts of the country. So man, so many good tips I heard there. Now, Adam, I do want to get back. You said something about a Champlain $10,000 tournament. I'm not letting that slide. You brought it up, so I do have to hear about that. Now, that's a good chunk of change for a Northeast tournament. What do we got? Tell me this story.
Yeah, that's a tough pill to swallow, but that comes with fishing, right? You've had the heartbreaks, just like a lot of us have. But we fished that Thayer's Trail, and I'm sure you're a little bit familiar with that. Yeah. We finished first in the points last year, had a hell of a year. I think we came in maybe third on the Bay. Then we popped up during the spawn on the St. Lawrence. We had it was a 6-fish tournament up there. So I think we had 6 fish for over 33 pounds on the St. Lawrence. Our best 5 went a little over like 27 and a half, I think it was. Just all big spawners. Our smallest fish was maybe 5.5 pounds. Great tournament. And that's another thing too, right? That team aspect of going to these different bodies of water and really figuring it out. And that's where, the trust factor and things like that really work with your partner, because, fishing on the bay every weekend is one thing, but when you get to go and travel and unlock these lakes and really try and figure it out, that's when the trust factor really kind of plays too with a team tournament. But yeah, we found ourselves in first going into the championship, and it's a 2-day event. There's only 16 teams that are competing for $10,000 through qualification, but anybody could enter. So, you could enter, but you couldn't qualify to win the 10 grand. Only the 16 teams could. But you could still pay your entry fee and still qualify for first place outside of the 10 grand. So essentially, we had a chance of winning $17,000 in that championship. So I think day one, we practiced for what, 4 or 5 days or so. And then we kind of had a fun fishing trip 2 years ago with the guys and found this little, actually, I'll let the cat out the bag. It was Seth Fighter's marina. And when he had fished, I forget what creek was that. You remember?
It's on the inland sea side, and it's basically the marina at the bottom of the inland sea. And they have a shitload of tournaments there. So it's constantly replenished.
So it's like the only marina that's around there. Anyway, it fills up with grass, and it just was absolutely loaded. We just pull in there, and I mean, we probably caught 40 fish on day one, and found ourselves in second place. And as we're pulling out with like maybe 45 minutes to go, there's like a barge or sunken barge. There's something out there. And next thing you know,
before, that's how I knew it was there. We had
ran into it. Yeah, literally the lower unit ran into it. So we kind of pull out there, and next thing you know, I mean, we catch 10 fish in 10 minutes, and we're like, oh shit, like we got to start here tomorrow. We come back the next day. We catch 60 fish in, the next 5 hours there. And in our mind, hey, we got a great bag right now. We need to go find a couple big ones, maybe 1 or 2 more big ones to really solidify this. And, we ran our big fish spots in other parts of the lake. And we get to one part, and Connor hooks up with maybe 4 to 5 pounds smallmouth. And maybe with 20 or so minutes of fishing time left. And it jumps at the boat, right? So that was a little heartbreaker for us. And, knowing in our mind, hey, listen, we got to catch 1 more big fish. So we're grinding as much as we can and pushing that time limit. And next thing you know, look down, we're like, hey, we'll take off. And, takes us 20, 22 minutes, whatever it is to get there. And, we took off, and, you cross the ferry wakes and all that good stuff. And next, we come around the bend, and he's MFing this, MFing that. I'm looking at him. I'm like, what's wrong? And he's like, we're going to be fucking late. So we get across the lake, and we're 2 minutes late, and we get docked a 2-pound penalty, and we had to wait to win the tournament.
Oh,
yeah.
God.
Yeah. So we lost out on an easy 10 G's, and I give myself as much wrongdoing. I know he takes the blame for a lot of it personally, just, he's running the boat, right? But, that's easily something I'm paying attention to too, in terms of time. Hey, listen, let's get out of here. Let's catch an extra 5 minutes, give us some time in case the wind's blowing, boat wakes, whatever it is. I'm just as liable for stuff like that, and that's kind of the what I take as a team partner, you know what I mean? As a co-angler, that's part of me. He's looking at the graph, things like that. I'm checking time. Hey, Connor, let's give us some time, so on and so forth. I'll tell you what, though, we've given ourselves about 5 to 8 minutes every tournament after that.
Put a little extra buffer on that. Yeah. And listen, that's going to happen. One of the unique things about our sport, unless you're MLF and you're doing the trailered launches and stuff like that, a part of the game is that right, is the timing and the run and so it does happen. And here's the other thing I do want to mention about that, because I've had not that specific thing happen, but I've had those heartbreaks just the same way. I've had those things happen where it cost you, and it's heartbreaking. But those moments, the moments of failure and disappointment, make the other moments so much better, right? You know, like you winning a couple weeks ago on the Bay, that has to be so much better, knowing that, you know, it's sort of like a feel good replacement for the bad moments.
Yeah,
know?
and you bet your ass that's crossed our mind when we looked down and we were like, all right, we got 25 minutes. Let's just head in.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Worth it.
And you know how the Northeast gets. It's a washing machine on a Saturday afternoon.
Oh, yeah.
Coming in. Yeah, so it gets pretty gnarly pretty quick. So, but yeah, we definitely, that was a learning lesson. That was a quiet 6-hour ride home, I'll tell you that. But yeah, like you said, that's a learning thing right there. You know, that's something that, I mean, damn near every tournament now that we get to that 30-minute mark, we're like, hey, let's give us some time to get back in. But yeah, it makes all the wins and the good finishes that much sweeter for sure.
Yeah. That's awesome. That was a great story. I'm glad you told. I know it hurt, but I'm glad you told that story. That was
Connor hasn't said a peep. I think he's still
still
hurts. It's so hard to gauge. Those lakes are so big.
They're so big.
How you know, it's the worst when you get back and you're like, fuck, we had 20 minutes left.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And knew there was big ones there, and we were like, we just need one more fish, and it was just
right.
It turns out we didn't need that big fish, but yeah, I mean, those places just get so rough. You just got to give it an extra. You got to give yourself cushion time, and I'd be curious, Mike, how you guys gauge that. Like, do you see a lot of pros come in like super early, or how do you guys know? Like, because a lot of these places you're not familiar with, and you get 2.5 days. How do you know? Like,
it is a hard gauge. It's a hard gauge. And I think what you guys said about monitoring the current conditions, you know, the boat traffic or the weather is part of it. But I'm big on, I always want to have a place within eye shot of the ramp that I can fish. And so my safety net is always leaving 15 minutes to fish that place. So then that way it's sort of an accidental buffer, right, that I'm putting on my run back. And I do that whether I have 3 fish in a live well like I did at Wheeler last week, or if I have 30 pounds, I always go fish that last spot at the ramp. So, you know, in practice for me, it's so important to find that, you know, to find something within, call it a couple miles of the ramp, to where I know when I'm on that spot, it's 5 minutes to the ramp, or it's 6, you know, I know that exact route. You know, so that's how I've handled it. But
now, do you time, like I've seen some guys during like live and whatnot on the initial takeoff, they have a graph set up with literally like almost like a stop timer. When you're making long runs like that, or maybe in practice, do you kind of see some of those guys that, hey, you know, it takes me 34 minutes to get to this spot? You know, do you kind of like do that in practice to understand that run or maybe that first spot in the morning?
That's super hardcore. I don't think I'm that technically advanced. I have a hard time looking at my own watch. So I don't do that. But, you know, in places that are big where you've never run before, I have went to
like at St. Lawrence when they have to run down south like that. You know, where
I have
long run.
100%. I have went through trial runs, and, you know, like probably my most famous one is, you know, the Bassmaster Classic, of course. You know, the 1 day practice for me was more about learning the route and timing it more than actually fishing. You know, it was just learning that run. And that was so treacherous because it's one of the longest runs I ever made in the history of my career. I think it was 2 hours and 20 minutes there. The Louisiana Delta. It was 2 hours and 20 minutes there without the gas stop. So then you have to build in a gas stop on one of the ends. And it was insane. And, you know, so there it was way more important to know the exacts, you know, but I've caught it pretty close, you know. I think seems like just about every tournament I come in with that last minute. Like that's my goal though. Because honestly, I feel like shit. If I come in and I had a full minute that I wasted, I feel bad.
Yeah.
I feel terrible. So my goal is always, if I'm in at 2:00, I want to be idling in the check-in at 2:00, because in bass events, I have that full minute. I have the 59 seconds, and I want to be idling in, and I want him to see me during that 59 seconds. If I don't, I feel bad about it because I feel like I've wasted the time, and I've caught too many in the last minute of fishing.
It's funny you say that.
Yeah.
It's funny you say that because Conor wants to move a lot, and when he picks up the trolling motor, I'm still the guy in the back making cash. There's been so many times he gets so mad. He'll sit in the driver's seat, and I'm like, fish. It's one of those things. I'm like, dude, I'm using every minute, every second. He'll be driving away. I'm still reeling in. So.
It's happened too many times where you catch a big one or you catch a keeper that means something in the end. Sure. So I'll keep doing it to the end. Guys, before we go here, what's next? I feel like, we got a long season ahead of us still. We are in New Jersey, but we're going to be able to fish till October, November. What do you guys have next? What's on the slate?
I think we're going to jump into there's some cash and opens. Well, Thayer's isn't doing their team tournament this year, which is unfortunate, but because that was a great trail. I'm thinking about doing some cash and opens, and then I think they're Empire, I believe, the team trail. It's like a New York trail. Because come July, I'm trying to get out of here. I'm trying to go.
We like to get up north. We've had some special days up there up north, and I think we're jumping on Cayuga, and then you're at Champlain. So New York in the summertime is so much fun, and we've had a lot of success. I mean, that was our first time fishing up there last year. I caught a 7 1/4, which was my PB up there on Cayuga.
Holy shit!
Yeah, I mean, we had 30 pounds for 6 fish up on Cayuga. I mean, we just had really special days. So, and it's damn near the same date, right, Con? I think maybe a day or two off.
Yeah, it's like a week or something away, but yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah. That's crazy.
We'll jump up to New York, get away from the crowd a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I wish you guys a lot of luck. I know sometimes when you have a big win, it's hard to top that, but I hope you keep winning. And I hope to see you guys. I occasionally run into you guys at like a jackpot or Thursday nighter, and it's always fun bashing heads with you guys out there. So I hope to see you at a Thursday nighter maybe this year.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you guys coming on. Thank you for carving time out. Some of the stories were great. And it was a big win. And, the good news is we plan on having this tournament until, Becky's going to be pushing me around on a walker, and I'm still going to be trying to hold these tournaments. So I wish you a lot of luck, and would love to see you win this again.
I appreciate it. Shout out to everybody at the Ike Foundation, too. I mean, having the opportunity to do this, Becky and all the women that have put in so much time and effort. I mean, it's a lot of work. It's not unseen, all those ladies out there just, with the kids and whatnot, putting everything behind the scenes. I think as fishermen, we're just like, hey, we got a boat we can go in. Let's, look, we're doing that. But everything behind the scenes and everything that goes down, big shout out to those guys and yourself, just giving us the opportunity to go out there and win a boat. There's not many places in the country you can go do that. So thank you, Mike.
I appreciate that. You're welcome. And you're right. The ladies, shout out to the Ike Foundation team and ladies. They make it all happen. I'm just Mickey Mouse. I just show up and they make it all happen. So shout out to the ladies. Conor, thank you for coming on. And Adam, thank you guys. Congrats again. Awesome win. Very excited for you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Have a good one. You guys have a good 4th of July weekend.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, we'll see you guys later. There you have it, guys. Awesome having those two on. Just so cool to have local guys supporting. Again, not just trying to go out and win a boat, but supporting the movement of getting kids fishing. Means a lot. So thank you to Conor and Adam for coming on. Let me remind you, watching the Ike Live 2.0, keep the comments and questions coming. Got room down there to leave me a message or leave a comment on guests you want to see. Also, thank you for supporting Abu Garcia and the Ike Foundation. They are big sponsors of this event. Thank you for joining us for the show. I hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you at the next one. Bye.
Do you fish for excitement? Do you fish for passion? Do you fish to get outside? Or do you fish to win? Abu Garcia for life. We're
right now where we're standing. We're in Camden, New Jersey.
Yeah.
Philadelphia is right there. This is the concrete jungle. And, you know, a lot of those kids, as they grow up, they don't fish. It's interesting because they're surrounded by water, you know, the Delaware River, the Schuylkill, ponds, city park lakes, but they don't have the influence to cast, to fish, to have a rod and reel. And that became our focus, you know, is to target kids in what we call non-traditional areas, you know, urban areas, city centers where the population's high, and let these kids have an experience. You know, it's amazing. I mean, some of the experiences we've had, whether it's Central Park in New York City, here in Camden, other parts of the country, even just casting.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable to see it, isn't it?
Yes.
It's unbelievable.
Yes.
And you know, you see these kids have this experience they've never had, and they light up, you know? The big thing, I think, for the Ike Foundation is we're not saying we want all these kids to become professional anglers.
No.
It'd be great if some of them did, but we want them to have that fishing experience because it ties them to so many other positive things. The outdoors, nature, conservation. Ecology, you know, all these amazing things in life that maybe they wouldn't have been exposed to any other way. We're trying to help with that. So it's important. It's important for us. We're proud of it.
I subscribe to Bass U TV, and so should you.
Great place to learn about anything you want to know about bass fishing.
You get it at Bass U. We got the best of the best.
I'm not just an instructor, I'm a subscriber.
I'm John Cruz, and I am a subscriber.
You can always learn, and watching Bass U is definitely helps with that. It's something that I like to do, and it's definitely something that you need to do.
If I'm still learning, you should be too.
Subscribe to Bass U because you'll learn how to catch a lot more fish.
Ike Live, brought to you exclusively by Abu Garcia.